with you. Hello, I'm Lesley Anne Knight and welcome to our latest instalment of the Pajama Game story. In the last episode, this show was really beginning to take shape. It's 1953 and George Abbott had given in to his two enthusiastic stagehands come wannabe Broadway producers, aka Hal Prince and Bobby Griffith, and agreed to write and direct their show on condition that Richard Bissell joined the team. Bissell was the award-winning writer and author of 7.5 the novel about a strike in a pyjama factory which had fired up Prince and Griffith's imagination and got them thinking about turning the book into a musical. This was followed by Guys and Dolls composer Frank Loesser recommending two of his young songwriting protégés, Richard Adler and Adler Ross, who then wrote a quirky number for their successful audition called Steam Heat, followed by choreographer Jerome Robbins and Joan McCracken's suggestion to hire a dazzling young Broadway and Hollywood dancer by the name of Bob Fosse as their choreographer. The thing about Bob Fosse was he may have only been 26 years old, but he'd already caught the attention of not only established choreographer Jerome Robbins on Broadway, but also of renowned Hollywood choreographer and dancer Hermes Pan, who had even given him the chance to choreograph a dance number in the 1953 film musical of Cole Porter's Kiss Me Kate. According to Broadway dance legend Gwen Verdon, Hermes Pan had said to Fosse, "You just have a way of dancing, so why don't you just choreograph your own piece?" And wow, did he. Now, back to the Pajama Game story. Based on Richard Bissell's novel 7.5 the Pajama Game is about the hard-working folk of the sleep-tight pyjama factory in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where the workers are made to churn out new garments at breakneck speed every single day. Every day, that is, until they decide to take on the management, demand an hourly pay rise of 7.5 and go on a go slow. However, this strike comes with a special problem. Sid Sorokin, the new factory superintendent, has fallen for one of the principal union leaders, Babe Williams, and needs to work out how, if it is even possible, he can win Babe's heart while resisting the pay dispute. Romantic and professional differences nearly closed the factory, but matters are resolved after Gladys Hotchkiss, the boss's secretary, pulls a few strings with her jealous boyfriend, factory efficiency manager Hines, and the workers win the day. So how did they cast it? After George Abbott hired Bob Fosse, pretty much the first thing Fosse did was get in touch with Carol Haney, the talented young dancer he had worked with in Hollywood on Kiss Me Kate. Haney not only danced like a dream, she had great comic talent too, and they gave her the part of the boss's secretary, Gladys. They then hired Janice Page to play Babe Williams, John Raitt to play her paramour, Sid Sorokin, and deadpan Eddie Foy Jr. to play the hilarious crazed efficiency manager, whose soft shoe shuffle with Rita Shaw playing his secretary Mabel was straight out of a polished vaudeville act. Meanwhile, all Prince and Griffith needed was enough money to pay everyone. They'd made a great start by getting Rosalind Russell's Hollywood film producer husband, Frederick Brisson, on board, and whilst he may have put up half the money they needed, they still had to find the other half, and one way to get it was to audition the show to potential investors. According to Hal Prince, their audition techniques needed a little refining at first. Freddie Brisson gave an audition early on, and George Abbott told the story exactly as it was. In other words, strikes and more strikes. In that one night, we eliminated every major theatrical investor in the country. It finally took 11 auditions held in various borrowed living rooms with an eventual total of 134 investors, including a final top-up from Mr. Abbott himself. But they got it. They say that a George Abbott rehearsal period was, like the man himself, smooth and orderly, and when rehearsals commenced for the Pajama Game at the Winter Garden Theatre on Broadway, they proved no exception. Bob Fosse threw himself into the work, spending weeks on his own with a rehearsal pianist, making sure he'd worked out every part himself first, so that when they came to put the dance scene together, it all just slotted effortlessly into place. And there was a lot of movement to work out, from the lively crowd scene Once a Year Day to the Latin tango of Hernando's Hideaway, and one number in particular that really appealed to the young choreographer, the one called Steam Heat. Adler and Ross had put the song together as a writing exercise, half inspired by a song Frank Loesser had written called Bloop Bleep, the faucet's dripping and I just can't sleep. If he could write a hit song about a dripping tap, could they be inspired by noisy radiators and steam pipes? Fosse loved working with sound effects, and working with Carol Haney and fellow dancers Buzz Miller and Peter Gennaro, he created a minimalist syncopated routine where his 3 dancers, dressed in black suits and bowler hats, clapped their hands, stomped their feet, hissed and clucked their tongues, and edged along with their elbows tucked and their hands spread out in such a singular way that they became known as Fosse hands.
I suppose if you repeat something enough times, it's called a style, you know. I started with hats because I began losing my hair very early. And I've always been slightly round-shouldered, and so I started to exaggerate that. And I don't have what the ballet dancers call a turnout. So I started turning my feet in, and I guess that's the style they talk about.
Adler and Ross wrote 14 songs for the show, and their mentor, Frank Loesser, contributed 2 more. There Once Was a Man and A New Town is a Blue Town, although he went uncredited for them, saving the limelight for his 2 young protégés, who incidentally more than stepped up to the plate with songs like Hey There, I'm Not At All In Love, Hernando's Hideaway, Racing With The Clock, and the Eddie Foy Jr. and Rita Shaw number I'll Never Be Jealous Again. Right, that's it for this episode. Coming up, we follow the Pajama Game to its Broadway opening. So don't forget to tap subscribe to get an alert as soon as the next new episode drops. Thanks again for watching, and see you soon.
Oopsie, oopsie.
Just talking musicals with you.